Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I am your host Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie Guy.
Oi oi.
Hello Ollie. Here we are again. This week we are doing my choice of game, a game called Bioshock 2.
Yeah, you might have heard of it.
You might have
Very
heard of it.
famous franchise.
It's a biggie, and if you're Bioshocked to hear that we're not doing a different game, there was a rather late switch from another game that we were going to do. Don't stress about it. Bioshock is the game that we're doing. So I'd played it before. This is your first time playing Bioshock 2?
It is, and I played the remaster on Xbox.
Yeah, so I played the remaster on PlayStation, but I think it's basically the same game. So do you want to go straight in with your... Do you have your summary at hand for the game?
I do. Of course I do. I always do. I'm very ready.
Okay.
Bioshock 2 is a first-person shooter video game developed by 2K Marin and published by 2K Games. It was released worldwide for PS3, Windows and Xbox 360 on February 9th, 2010. The game takes place in the dystopian underwater city of Rapture, 8 years after the events of Bioshock. In the single-player campaign, players control an armoured protagonist, Subject Delta, as he fights through Splicers, the psychotic human population of the city, using weapons and an array of genetic modifications.
That's the game. That's the one I played. I did the right one at least, so that's good.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, this sounds like great. I'm going to play that again. Yeah, so you'd played the original Bioshock, right? But
yes,
a long
I did,
time
yeah.
ago.
When it came out, which it's crazy to think that this came out in 2010, which is 13 years ago, and I played the original before this, when it first came out.
So it's been a long time. So how much do you remember of the original?
I mean, I remembered the generalities, like Rapture is underwater.
Okay.
Big Daddies look after the little sisters.
That.
No, but I remember the general, the
vibe.
What else? I remember the big twist, which I'm not going to spoil in case anyone's not played it.
Yeah.
Plasmids, splicers. I don't really remember the plot, but I do remember and I remember the ending because it was mad.
Yeah. Okay.
And in that game, I got the good ending as well.
Okay, so you rescued all of the little sisters.
I did.
Yeah, I remember it was one of the big problems with that first game is they had the, kind of similar to this game, they had a morality system where it's you can save the little sisters or you can harvest them to get Adam to level up your things. But then if you saved them, they would give you a gift of Adam and a bunch of other stuff. So it was you actually ended up getting better stuff and you were morally right. Why would you ever harvest them? They just had the balance way off for anyone to ever consider not saving them unless they're evil or just doing a second playthrough and want to see what happens. It's
that same thing, isn't it? It's why would I ever kill a child? Why would I do that? Even in a video game, why would I do that?
But you can imagine if it's you won't get the shotgun, unless you and there's 13 of them. But if you harvest one, you get the shotgun. Something where it's that's actually going to be fun to play with. Do I want to sacrifice my enjoyment in order to?
I think in this one though, you don't have to save all of them, right? You can actually sacrifice a few of them or a few of the enemies, bosses, and you still get a pretty good ending, I think.
Yeah, so I think there's 6 different endings for this game. So you can kind of save the little sisters, and then there's also throughout the story characters that you meet that you kind of have an option to either, I guess, forgive because they've generally done something to wrong you, or to kill them basically. And there's kind of you can look online. There's kind of a graph that kind of works out what ending you get, and the idea is the I know we're kind of getting straight deep into the weeds here, but the for what you do affects essentially your child in this game, and then it's what she does at the ending. So it's oh, I saw that you were forgiving people, Dad, and so now I know I should forgive people, or oh, you were just killing everyone. Maybe we should do that. The idea is that it's the decisions you made is kind of influencing the next generation, which I think is a nicer way rather than oh yeah, I'm harvesting these little sisters. You could justify it as you doing what you need to do to survive for the greater good, but then suddenly at the end you turn into an evil villain and you want to blow up the world. So I'm well, no, those lines don't always exactly line up.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say what ending I got. Let's save that for the end, shall we?
Yeah, let's go before we go too hard on story. Let's go gameplay first. So obviously this is generally more, I think, my kind of game. I mean, this is exactly my kind of game, more so than yours. How did you find it?
I mean, I thought it was really hard, and it took me a very long time to understand how it worked or what I was meant to be doing. Like, it wasn't until I got to the area before Fontaine's Futuristics that I actually realised what I was meant to be doing.
Okay, so what were you doing before?
I was just using the gun. And
you just playing it like a first-person shooter?
Yeah, and one plasmid, and then I was like, I just can't win a single gunfight. Like, I lose all the time. I put it down to easy, and then only near the end, and I was like, I can like hack that robot and hack the camera, and that sends robots out. And
I was it's like an immersive sim. I feel like you have the same thing because you were really struggling with Prey, and I didn't have any problem with difficulty.
I'm not very good at balancing those things. I'm not very good at balancing this. Like, I'm going to start off by saying this game, I did not understand a single thing that happened in this game. Like, I literally spent 9 hours not knowing what happened. And even the ending, I was like, I don't know what happened.
Do you mean like the story?
The plot, I have no idea what the plot was. I have no idea what was going on. I literally spent the whole game just being like, what is happening? Like, I don't understand. And so I was like, so in my mind, obviously I came in with a preconception that I was like, in this game you play as a Big Daddy. So I was like, it's basically going to be like the Titan bits of Titanfall, or playing as Orisa in Overwatch, or the Heavy in Team Fortress 2. I'm just going to mow everything down, and that's fine. And it didn't turn out to be the case. It took me quite a long time to realise that was not going to be the case. I got through most of the game with the freeze plasmid, the freeze drill, and the like nail gun.
Okay.
That pretty much carried me through the whole thing.
Rivet, like the
rivet gun.
That's it.
Yeah. Because he's like the Big Daddy's like an engineer, isn't he? But he's big engineer turned whatever he's meant to be. Like, I have no idea what's going on in this game.
You're a deep sea diver that basically almost like accidentally discovered Rapture, and they assume that you were a spy, and you basically get taken in, and then eventually you kind of you become like an engineer, and then you get turned into a Big Daddy. So it's weird because like I feel like for the first game, like they probably did like a survey to people saying like, what do you like about the game? They're like, oh, we love Rapture, like the underwater city, and we love Big Daddies. And they're like, okay, we'll send you back there and you be a Big Daddy. Like, I feel like that was the response, but it's not like the Big Daddies like people think of. It's like the alpha variant. So it's much more like, because the actual Big Daddies.
It's the Delta variant, isn't it?
Is it Delta?
Project Delta. Yeah, that's your name.
Okay. Okay.
The alpha is like the final one you fight, who's like really good.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's basically like an early version of it, because in the final ones, like they kind of get grafted into the suit and they kind of get spliced almost beyond repair, whereas you're very much more just a person in a suit here. Like, I never really felt like a Big Daddy. It just kind of felt like I could be anyone, but I can switch to a drill if I want to.
Yeah, and the only time you felt really heavy was ironically when you were underwater, which is when you're probably lightest. I was like, wow, this guy's weighty, but obviously he's not. But to be honest with you, I really liked how, like, where it could be the opposite of Bioshock 1, it was. Like, all the things of, like, okay, instead of going and exploring as much, you're kind of more holding your own, and the enemies are coming to you.
Yeah.
Like, and I really like the process of, like, getting ready, attacking a Big Daddy, because obviously they don't attack you when you first meet them. They just walk around, unless you get too close. You know, get the little sister, getting them ready, taking on the splicers and then releasing them. I was like, this is actually like quite a good little loop. Like once I got the hang of what I was meant to be doing, I was like, okay, I'm understanding this now.
Yeah, because you can adopt, like, so if you kill another Big Daddy, you can take their little sister, essentially. And they're so funny because they're like, no, you killed, like, my Big Daddy. And then you pick them up and they're like, oh, okay, I love you instead. It's fine. Like, immediately forgiven. But then you can go around and you can find certain bodies and they harvest Adam. I realize this might be a little bit confusing for people that have never played Bioshock. Basically, there's these little creepy girls, and they're protected by these big things kind of in suits, and so you're playing as one of them. But it kind of gives you a nice opportunity where you know, for 2 minutes, there's going to be waves of enemies, and then they give you a lot of tools to defend yourself, so you can put down, like electric tripwire traps and, like, rivet traps and, like, put down, like, auto turrets. And then, like, were there any other, like, So this is kind of considered, like, an immersive sim. Alongside, even though Prey is the other one that we've done on the list, which means it's kind of got a lot of systems. Like if you electrocute the water and there's enemies in it, you know, they'll get electrocuted, or you can shoot like a pipe and fire will burst out of it if it's like a gas pipe.
I did that quite, pipe did that quite a few times.
Did you have any
But,
like creative solutions to anything?
To be honest with you, like, this is going to sound really bad because I was playing on easy. I kind of just froze every single enemy and then killed them with a gun. And like the big daddies, I could just freeze them, and as soon as they unfreeze, I just freeze them again. Because I put all of my points into having more Eve and enemies freezing for longer, and they get frozen if they hit me, and my drill can freeze people. So I was literally just like a walking ice block, basically.
You're the only thing moving in any room.
Yeah.
Everything
so like
else is ice
a big
sculptures.
daddy, I would just freeze them where they are, and then throw a proximity mine at their feet, and then by the time they come out, proximity mine will just like, proximity mine will just shatter them straight away. So it's kind of like, I can just deal with you like, bloop, 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 and then I just kind of leave them. The ones that were a lot trickier were the big sisters.
Mm-hmm. So if you harvest or save 4 little sisters, the little girls, the big sister shows up. So you kind of want to describe what the big sister is?
Yeah, it's quite cool as well because she does like 3 screams as like a countdown.
Yeah,
so
it's such a cool sound, isn't it? And like the scream kind of like shakes. You kind of like, you can feel it in your core when she's coming.
She's kind of like a super athletic big daddy, really, with like all of the powers. She can do everything, telekinesis and shoot lightning at you and everything, and also like expanded melee options, so she can like drop kick you and like headbutt you and stuff as well. But they don't look very threatening when they're standing still because their knees kind of like bend inwards.
Yeah, and
it's like,
obviously they're much smaller than like the big daddies, so like, you know, they're kind of your size, more like. So
my size was in me. My size
bigger than you in the game. They were cool encounters. Like I feel like it's only just about an immersive sin. Like I feel like it's so, a lot of the things it does are so simple. I mean, I'm going to keep comparing it to Prey because that's the one that most likely other people have at least heard the podcast or played.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite one of these. Like in Prey, if there's like a door you want to open, you could maybe like shoot like a Nerf gun at the screen, the touchscreen, and to go through menus, or, you know, control an item to like, you know, to bang into it or something. Whereas this game's equivalent is you shoot the hack tool through the obviously round cut out like in the
bit
wall,
of glass,
which
like
perfectly
glass
lines up. Yeah, and it's like, well, I mean, I kind of am, and like they're like it's all very much like laid out. This is what they want you to do, and do it. Like the only really, I think, creative thing I thought of was, say if I knew I wanted to attack a big daddy, I would purposely set off an alarm on myself so the flying like drones would attack me, and then I'd shock and hack them as a way to like get drones on, like just to get them to show up. And I was like, okay, that was a thing I've thought of, but there wasn't really many other times where I was like, I've kind of outplayed, you know, this outcome using my smarts, because it would always present to me what it wants me to do otherwise.
Yeah, also the enemies don't really inspire creativity. Like there's only really 2 enemy types outside of, well, there's basically either little splicer or massive splicer. Yeah. And then obviously the big daddies are kind of the events. That they're kind of the only enemies you get.
There's some that kind of go along the ceilings, and there's like the teleporting ones. There's a few small variants, but you don't really have to change the way you attack them.
No, you just have to shoot them, freeze them and shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it.
And the shooting I don't think's great. Like the rivet gun, like the huge crosshair, it just kind of feels a little bit inaccurate, especially for a game that rewards headshots a lot. I feel like a lot of the guns are kind of not really accurate enough for you to feel like you're being rewarded for your aim. And I think that's the point. They don't want it to be like,
exactly, I was going to say that.
Just have good aim, but it kind of just makes the guns kind of, I don't think they feel amazing. Yeah,
like the spear gun is like you need 10 minutes to reload it after every shot. Like the rivet gun is pretty inaccurate. The machine gun just seems completely useless, like at any distance. And the shotgun, you have to basically put it in their mouths to hit them, otherwise the bullets just hit the walls behind them. Like I would kill a splicer and then go over in the bullet holes on the wall. It would be crazy. But like, how did you stand there for that long getting hit? Like there's so many bullets being fired at you.
A lot of the enemies are kind of bullet spongy as well. I mean, it's because they want you to not be just shoot. They want you to, you know, shock them and then go up and hit them, or, you know, lure them into an area to then shock them in the water or something. Any
time I used a plasmid, except for the freeze, it just seemed really ineffective. Like the fire one, they're like, oh, on fire for about 3 seconds and they're just shooting you again.
Yeah, I mean, you can really come up. I mean, telekinesis is good because you can like pick up objects to like, you know, like an explosive barrel, and then you can throw them. Like shock's good for like, to say if the big daddy, it couldn't like immobilize them for a bit. So you can kind of shock them, like loop around behind them, shoot with the shotgun, then kind of like keep like doing that. And then even the wasps I kind of use, I think wasps or bees or whatever they were, because they like will spread out and find enemies, and then the enemies will be just like swiping at them for a while. So it's like, okay, keep all of them busy or busy, and then I can go and try and track down the others.
They are all kind of just variants of freezing them though, aren't they? The ice is the best one for that. Like you're shocking them as they stand still, you're being them because they stand still. So it's like we just may as well use the ice blast every time. And then the other one that I sort of got the hang of was hypnotize.
Yep, that was good.
It takes so long for the guy to get hypnotized that if there's two people in a room and you hypnotize one, by the time he's finished like doing his little hypnosis animation, the other guy's shooting you, so you kill him, and then because there's then only one person hypnotized, they just turn on you anyway. So I was like, I'm just gonna freeze you both and then shoot you both. Like,
that's good for if it's like a big fight coming up, because if you level that up, you can hypnotize big daddies, and that's when it kind of becomes a big game changer. Oh, actually, and the big kind of brutey enemies, we didn't mention them because they have like too much health. But you get one of them on your side, and the problem is though, is they stay on your side for a while, like quite a long while, like minutes. But like it's not forever, but they'll follow you around forever. So at some point, I'm like, I think it's about time. I'm gonna have to try and find a way to kill you. So I start putting down like cyclone traps in a circle around. Like I'll be ready. So as soon as I turn on them, they're gonna be gone straight away. So you said you didn't pick up much of the story. Like, why do you think that was? Because it's not that of a complicated story.
I think it's because I played it with the volume almost on mute, and it's mostly them just talking to you. Like it's just exposition continuously at you. Mm-hmm. But like the sound effects are so grating and loud that I was like, I can't listen to it because it's too much. And like the voice acting was so stupid. Like the characters' voices were so silly. It was like, how can I take this seriously? He's like, oh, now come on down here, my boy. Like, I was just like, what is this game? This is so stupid. So I turned it down. But because the whole game is just telling you the plot, it doesn't. I don't feel like I really ever saw anything. It was just telling me the whole time.
Yeah,
I kind of missed all of it. And it'd be like
backstory.
3 long lines on a 4K TV of text, and during that I'm like fighting for my life. So it's like I'm not going to read it, but like I couldn't really hear it because I had it down so low. Because like the sound of the camera whistling, like the little and the sound of the shops, like the 2 shops, like they're so loud. And then every time you pick up a little sister, it plays this like violin sound, and it's like really loud. And then when you put her down, it plays it as well. So it's just like, and when you get a plasmid, it plays this like old radio song, like honky tonk song that's like really loud. And then like the sound of your radio beeping on when someone rings you is also like just like feels like scratching my brain. So I turned it down to like 1 above off. Basically,
or just overall like the master audio, like
I played the entire game almost on mute because I was like, it's too. It's so noisy. Like I can't stand it. I can't stand listening to it. And also, my character would get caught on things, and like get caught in the air, and then he would like slam down really hard, which is really loud, and like that would happen just at random times. So it was like a huge bang.
Did you have like an earache when you were playing this? Were you like extra sensitive?
No, I just think that it's like a lot of very abrasive sound effects. Or like the sound of the like Mexican shop.
Yeah,
like, what is that? Like it's so loud.
And then when you're hacking as well, and then if you miss it, then the alarm goes off.
Yeah, the alarms are really noisy. Like, and the splicers are just saying like screaming and saying like really weird things, and like so it's just, and the sound of you getting shot. He's like, oh, like it's so loud. It's just like, stop, like, just please stop.
So now you're saying it, like I'm thinking, oh yeah, I realised that. But I'm glad you didn't mention this, like I'm glad you didn't mention me during the week, like, oh, it's all a bit loud, because then I think I'd notice it. But like looking back, I can see it, but it didn't bother me at the time. The only time that really bothered me was like sometimes on like certain levels, the music would like really ramp up. But it would be just like, if you're in this area, it's like mad music. So you can, hopefully if you're watching the video version, well, I guess you'll hear it as well, the audio version as well. Like there's just, I was exploring it, I think I was like in a hotel or something, and the music was just like going like at 11 out of 10, but there was nothing happening. I was just like opening
I know
like,
what you mean.
lockers
It's
and stuff.
Pearl, isn't it?
Yeah. And for like the whole time, and then like I kept thinking like, oh, is something coming? Is something coming? You know, because I'm normally like the music amps up when something's coming, and it's like, no, I'm just looking in lockers and stuff, and the music's just going ham.
So I went into this game with like a very open mind. I was actually looking forward to it because I played Bioshock 1, but I remembered not liking Bioshock 1, but I was like, I must have just been like a cool teenager who like didn't like mainstream games because like everyone loves it. So I was like, well, Bioshock 2, I can give it another go. And like, man, like this was a miserable experience.
No.
Like I had no idea what was going. Like, I've got some questions for you, genuine questions that I'm not being snarky. These are actual questions that I had when I was playing this game.
Here's my question number 1. Why do you like rubbish poo-poo
why is it
games?
so rubbish? No, right. I'm not going to ask you all of these because some of them you kind of answered a bit. Who is the main character?
So you are. Oh, I told you. So you were a deep sea diver. So Sigma. Oh no, sorry, that's in the DLC. So
Delta.
Yeah, you're Delta.
But
so
who is he?
So he was a deep sea diver that kind of got captured, and then they do basically you get bonded with like a little sister, which means so for the early versions, I swear it was Alpha Series, but maybe it is. I think you're called Subject Delta, but it's the Alpha Series Big Daddies. I think that's what it was. They kind of get paired up, which means you just have to protect the little sister. And so originally it would be tied to just one little sister, but then they realized that if the little sister died, then that Big Daddy's basically useless. So eventually they evolved them, so it's just to look after any little sister. So you basically have this bond. Then at the very beginning of the game, we didn't mention great opening of the game, where it's like the antagonist, Sophia Lamb, basically just tells you to take your helmet off and shoot yourself.
And you shoot yourself, yeah.
In front of Eleanor, who's kind of your surrogate daughter, and Sophia Lamb's actual daughter. But then she basically brings you back to life with one of those like the Vita chambers, the things that you use to respawn with in the game. And so you just got this mad like sense like I need to protect her. So you would do whatever you can to try and get to her and protect her.
Okay, because I was like, why? Because I saw the scene where you get bonded to the little sister, and I was like, why am I thought I just pick them up. I was like, I've been doing that the whole game.
No,
like, why is this one? Why am I now like?
No, it's just that one specific one.
Okay.
Yeah, for those the older Big Daddies.
Right, I've got another question for you.
Okay.
Who is Lamb and what are they doing?
so Sophia Lamb or
the main. I know she's the main baddie, but I don't understand what she was trying to do.
Okay,
I don't understand how they tie together. I did not get anything that was happening in this game.
So Sophia Lamb. So do you know about do you know who Andrew Ryan is? Yeah,
I remember all that from Bioshock 1. He was the guy that started it all, and he was like. Yeah. The guy that was Would You Kindly, and he wants to build a utopia, and
so Would You Kindly, what that was Fontaine, though he was someone else, but kind of, he's the one who's so Fontaine is the one who.
God, this game is so confusing. What are you talking about?
So you were like in the first game, you're kind of like a sleeper agent, and then that's like the trigger word.
I remember all that.
So Andrew Ryan wasn't the one who set you up with that, but he's the one who realizes that and gets you to kill him. Andrew Ryan isn't the final boss. That's Fontaine. Who calls himself Atlas throughout the game? Like he's
Atlas, yeah.
You remember? But anyway, Sophia Lamb moved to Rapture because she kind of believed originally in the ideology, but she was a psychiatrist and she basically wanted to help the people and was trying to create a utopia and believed Andrew Ryan was kind of too like cutthroat and too much like if you want to get power you got to get it yourself, and she was kind of helping the poor, giving them like free like counseling and stuff and giving away food. Like she would do like poker nights and purposely lose to like poor people to share money and stuff, which kind of went against what Andrew Ryan wanted, what his ideology was. Right. And then when Rapture all went down, and so that they had conflicts back and forth when they were both there. Then when Rapture like kind of fell apart in the first game, she kind of rose up to power because everyone loved her because she was helping everyone out, and so that's why she calls them like the family, like which is basically everyone she's been looking after.
I thought they were like psychically linked or something.
No, so then her daughter Eleanor Lamb, who's the little sister that you're trying to protect, she was basically like trying to create like the perfect person, like someone who's like completely selfless, like she's calling them like utopian, I think. Basically someone who's just is going to do good and never think of themselves, but just, serve the greater good, but, kind of brainwashing a child. And so you're trying to get her back.
Yeah, because I thought they were like linked because she was trying to create this like saint. But I was like, why would you link it with these people? Like, they're like drug addicts, killers. Like, so I was like, I must be misunderstanding what's going on here because these are like the worst pool of people you could possibly psychic link to a child. Like, these are the worst humans on Earth. Okay, I've only got 3 more questions. I'm sorry.
Okay,
this is helping me. This is helping me understand.
This is us explaining the plot. This is kind of serving 2 purposes.
Okay.
I'll
Who
try
is
my
Sinclair,
best.
and why is he helping you?
So Sinclair, he just seems like a nice guy. I'm not entirely. So I was so sure because I forgot. I was so sure he was going to turn around and it was going to be like.
I thought he was going to turn on you. Yeah, same.
But he's just trying to get back to the surface, and was trying to help you in order to serve his goal, in order to get to the surface. And then he ends up getting turned into a big daddy and just wants you to kill him.
You just kill him.
But yeah, he just seems like a nice guy.
Okay, so he's not... Okay, that's fine. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he's quite simple.
Okay, outside of the context of me killing people, what are plasmids for?
So plasmids, there's little like adverts. So every time you pick them up.
But all the adverts were them killing each other.
I mean, it's because obviously they serve as the tutorial. So every time you pick, so plasmids, for those that don't know, they're basically like almost like superpowers that you can take. So like the example is like there's like the flame one, like Inferno, whatever it's called, and they're like, never get caught without having a light for your cigar with like Inferno and stuff, or like if this person's like bullying you, like control them. So that it was basically, I mean, it's like basically the idea is that there's no like limits in science by morality. Mm-hmm. So science was able to progress to areas that it wouldn't be able to do on the surface. So they have like rough things to try and like justify like what would someone real life be using these plasmids without killing each other. But I mean, I think they were designed gameplay first.
Yeah, because I was thinking like, I was trying to remember like Rapture's supposed to be like city of the future utopia. Why would they all need to kill each other all the time? If that's not...
So the plasmids were, I think, originally meant to be like just things that you would use day to day. But then obviously like, they're mainly used for killing. They do a better job in Bioshock Infinite. There's like almost like a progress fair where you kind of go around to the different stalls and it's like, hey, like, do you want to buy like this tonic that's going to allow you to shoot birds out your hands? Like, this is what, but like they try to explain it a way better how it could be used in real life.
Okay, one more point that I did not understand. Why doesn't everyone use the Vita chambers? Surely each key person would use them. Yeah,
I'm not really sure. I don't really understand how they're meant to really work.
Yeah, I don't get and they're everywhere. Like every splicer would use one, surely. Yeah,
so when you died, Eleanor controlled a little sister to like take your body to one to revive. So I
thought you just like flew in, you fly it back.
Yeah, that obviously what seems to happen in the game. But like I think that might just be like they needed you to respawn and they wanted a in-world reason. Yeah,
she must be strong, little sister, because you're like
maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's every time you die, little sisters take that. I mean, I'm not sure. I'd need to. That would be a Wikipedia search, but it's probably explained in the first game. But I haven't played the first game in a while, so I don't really know.
Yeah, because I was thinking it must be like they wanted an in-world reason to bring you back, but I kind of feel like maybe all of these in-world reasons for things are actually making it worse, because you're looking at it and you're trying to think about. You think they've built this world, then actually when you look at it a little bit closer, it kind of falls apart a little bit.
Yeah, I think at some point they had to make decisions for gameplay and kind of throw the lore, back a little bit.
I feel like Prey is like the ultimate version of this game.
Yeah.
Prey is like the 10 out of 10 of this game. That's like made me appreciate Prey more. Other things as well, like every level in this game look the same. Like I can't really pick up. I know I ran through like 3 areas, but they're all like brown with like watermarks. That was kind of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Rapture's so lovely. So I know that this time you're running through the poor bit, aren't you? Whereas in the other one you were going through the rich bit. But it still didn't have like that many things. When you think about the spaceship in Prey, which had like a garden and it had like the weird anti-grav sections. Like there has water sections.
Like going
in this,
outside and
the outside sections on this were just a bit rubbish. Like you just
I think there's obviously they came out on different console generations.
Of course, yeah.
And then also don't forget that, this was I mean, I don't want to call them that, but I guess it's like the B team, or at least, the team that didn't found, it wasn't made by Irrational Games.
Yeah.
So basically they made the first Bioshock, and then while Irrational went on to make Bioshock Infinite, which was the next game they made, but they spent like 8 or 9 years or whatever making that, 2K had a hit on their hands with Bioshock. They wanted a sequel. And so this, went to 2K Marin, who put this together, and without much insight from the original creators. It seems like it's obviously, I mean, there might have been some approvals, but there's stuff in the DLC of Bioshock Infinite that breaks they basically go back and change about what Big Daddies used to be and how they're created and the bonding process. They kind of ignore Bioshock 2 in terms of the lore, because you do go back to Rapture and Bioshock Infinite in the DLC.
So like retcon it.
Yeah. And it feels like mean, because it feels like it's disregarding this game, so you feel bad for the developers of this. But also, if you're the person who created your thing, it's like, well, this is your narrative. That was their narrative that they had all along. So, I feel like this is almost a bit like a Majora's Mask in Zelda, where it's like, oh, we need a game quick. We can't, maybe reuse a few more of the assets. Let's keep a lot of it similar to as it was in the first game. We don't have the budget to create all of these, unique environments.
Yeah, I wonder what the multiplayer was like as well, because I know it had like cutscenes and story and like...
I played the multiplayer back in the day.
So what, do you have, I guess you have your hand and your gun.
Yeah,
right?
So it's, I mean, it wasn't great, like, because it's that shooting and it's just a bit chaotic. I remember you could become a Big Daddy. I think there was like a mode where it's like you got to, like, the Big Daddy's got to get from somewhere to somewhere else. But it had like I remember there being like pop-ups on the screen, like in Call of Duty when you shoot someone, it would be like getting medals and like numbers on screen. Yeah. And I remember it had that like appearing on screen, and that like with the Bioshock art was just it was the period where every game had to have multiplayer. And and it was never, I just like, if those developers could have just spent more time on the main game, how much better would it be?
But it's meant to like fill in the story, isn't it? Between 1 and 2 or something. Did 2 take place after 1? It does, doesn't it? Because it's all like, yeah.
Yeah, it does. But the gameplay wise, it is better than 1. So in 1, you don't have a gun and a plasmid out at the same time. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah,
I don't remember that. No,
you can't do both. Whereas this one, you can have your gun and your plasmid out, which is a big upgrade. Things like the hacking is better in this game just because it's quicker.
The hacking in this game is good.
Yeah,
I would say it's good. I like it. I like the fact there's a blue area that gives you better stuff. Like, the hacking is good.
You do it too much, because you
do it a lot.
You can do it to every vending machine to get free stuff. Every like health healing station, you get a free health kit, and it's like, well, why would I'll just do it just to leave the health kit on the floor in case I need to grab it later. Like, and you just end up doing it so much. But at least it is quick. Yeah,
I had so much money and Adam, because I was playing on easy. I would go up to Gatherer's Garden and have like 500 Adam. And just buy everything. Like, literally just click through and buy every single thing. I was like a walking tank.
I'm jealous. I feel jealous. I played through on normal. To be fair, I was never lacking, because you made me paranoid, because Ollie messaged me when he had kind of started playing. He'd started playing before me and was saying like, well, I think you messaged me because you wanted help, because you're like, what am I doing wrong?
I didn't understand the game. I was saying, I was like, I just keep dying, and like, I had a Vita chamber next to a body that was being drained by a little sister. So I was just dying, respawning straight next to it. Obviously, the enemies are still there. I don't have any bullets. I don't have any Adam or Eve, whatever it's called. So I was just dying, and I just go up to hit them with my drill repeatedly. And I was like, I died about 6 times, and I was like, God, I'm not doing this. Put it down to easy.
Yeah. Were you like switching between the different types of ammo? Like to...
Yeah. I used everything. Although, to be honest, at the end of the DLC, I also ran out of ammo then, even though I played on easy.
Oh, really?
Was the DLC like especially hard, or?
Should we talk about the DLC?
Yeah. A lot of the same problems. So I don't know what was going on.
Yeah. So Minerva's dead. Well, there's 2 DLCs. I didn't realize one of them is basically like a just like enemy rush. Like basically you got to the little sisters gathering Adam. You got to protect them, which is what you end up doing so much in the main game anyway. That was the last thing that I wanted to do more of. But yeah, Minerva's Den is like you playing as a new character, and it's like a separate story. Yep, Sigma, and it's really lauded. Like I had never played it. I played Bioshock 2 back in the day. I never played the DLC, so I was really looking forward to it. How did you find it?
I thought it was like pretty much the same. It was just a bit more low key, which I liked. I liked that you only had really one person speaking to you, and you were kind of in a much smaller area, but you were more free to do what you wanted.
Yeah. Which
is weird, because like that part in the main game, Dionysus Park, where you have to go and kill or collect 3 sisters or whatever, even though it's open, I felt like that bit was so long and was probably the worst bit of the whole game. But then Minerva's Den, which was more open, was like much better. Although I did have trouble with the not electromagnetic, or like the gravity pull. You know, when you take the magnet off the door. The first time I did it by accident. Like, I was trying to do it, and then at the time I did it, I didn't realise what I did. I was like, because I was throwing it down in front of the thing trying to pull it off.
Oh, you meant to throw it through the hole,
aren't you? Yeah. So when I accidentally threw it through the hole, I was like, oh, it worked. I don't know what happened. And then I thought I was trying to pull it off the back of the door, but actually you're trying to pull the little things out, aren't you?
There's a little fuse box things.
So you gotta break the second time round, I had to do it. I had to look it up because I was like, I've got no idea what to do. I don't understand what's wrong with me. Like, this game, I had no idea about anything. Like,
so funny. I wonder if I just like remember, because I played Bioshock Infinite not that long ago, so I wonder if I just had it more built in, that style of game. But
I think it was the fact that I went in thinking that it was going to be like Titanfall 2 mech sections, where I was like, I'm the guy, like, I'm going to walk around and just kill everything, and the game will tell its story. And actually it didn't turn out to be that, and by the time I realised that, it was I was too deep into easy mode, too overpowered, too much ammo
to go back.
Yeah,
I did like on the some of those sections, because one of the things that the other game is it really guides you. There's like constantly a big arrow on your screen, and
Crazy
really,
Taxi,
yeah, kind of that, telling you exactly where to go. And I think Minerva's Den is the first time when they're like, oh, you work out where to go. And then you have multiple options. You got to realize, if I go this way, I get the electroshock plasmid, and then I go to the other side and I can open the door. And it was, and then immediately after that, it puts the arrow back, and it's like, okay, now go this way. But I enjoyed the fact that it allowed me to, it trusted my intelligence a little bit enough to be able to do that.
And the laser was good. The laser was cool.
Yep, new weapon, the laser. So I had a problem with the DLC. So I played for about an hour and a half, and then the game crashed. And it didn't have an autosave, and I hadn't saved. So I had to replay it through again. I was saving like every few minutes, but then I did get another crash like later on in the game. But luckily I'd saved then. But like having to replay for that beginning, and then so after I crashed, I then went to easy mode for it. Because I was like, I'm not, I'm just gonna forget about harvesting anything or getting little sisters or whatever. I'm just gonna just blast through on easy and see the story, because I was so annoyed. So that has tainted my view on the DLC.
Mine also crashed to desktop, and I lost my save. And in the Discord, someone, I think it might have been Blake, had the same problem with the DLC. Also crashed to desktop and lost their save. So this must be like a regular, and we're playing on different systems. So
yeah, I wonder if that's with the remaster or something from the original version.
It was very buggy. I was getting, an enemy would bend over. If I would throw something over them, it would just kind of get stuck in the air and like shake in the air. And like the countdown timer for like the alarms and stuff would flicker like constantly.
Oh, I didn't.
But not
I
know it's like a flapping effect, but like it would be like flickering.
Yeah.
It was just really bugged.
Like texture, and you'll see the textures were taking longer to load in. I also had one moment, not in the DLC, where it's quite funny. The little sister was gathering at him, but just no enemies showed up. So I just was waiting.
I had that once. I had that once as well. Maybe that was part of it. Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, it was a buggy game. So that did annoy me. But overall, the DLC, I thought it had the same problem as the main game, as it felt like the story had all just happened and then now you've shown up. And then it felt very front loaded with the beginning and the end, with actual plot, developments that you're a part of. I think the ending, the twist I didn't see coming, and the reveal at the end, and the whole idea.
Does it turn out that you are the thinker or something?
So you are so the thinker is basically a computer.
It's like Alexa, right?
Yeah, basically. It's an AI, and there's two people that created it, and one of them wants to use it to basically tell the future, to cheat, to gamble, and basically exploit it. And the other person, who's the main person who's talking to you and you're following guidance from, basically he's trying to put his wife's personality into the thinker and use that as a way to talk to his wife that's passed away. So he's putting in recordings of him and his wife talking to each other. But then it turns out that you are him, in the suit. You are Porter.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that he's him.
So you don't know. You're just listening to voice recordings. Voice
but do we
messages.
Know that does he know? Does the guy in the suit know?
Well, no, because he's telling you what to do.
Well, so he's he has no memory of recording it.
So I think it's the thinker messaging you. But you're the actual him. But
he's using your voice. That's what they say, don't they? They're like, we want to make it a recognizable voice, so we use yours. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, we figured it out.
Even with that, so there's like a moment at the end where it's really cool. Like you hear, it's really cool. It's like, so it's him when he first is like talking to the AI as his wife, and he's really like uncomfortable with it, and actually shut it down, saying it's not her, which is like a really cool moment, standout moment. But then you go to another room and it's like a bunch of pictures with her, and you walk in, and then they all like these pictures on the wall like flash up full screen. And I'm like, just let me go through and look at them. It's like it never just trusts you. Like it just feels like it's really going against what these kind of games are. And you know, I don't think there needs to be, this is the blueprint for the genre. You have to follow it exactly. But I feel like this is kind of taking like a few things that make the genre good, but then simplifying it or over-explaining it too much that it kind of goes generic. And I don't know, maybe that's a push from the publisher to make it more mainstream, and like we need to make sure that at least 60% of people finish the game, so don't give any obstacles, or we want to make sure everyone like understands the story. Someone could miss those pictures. I wonder if it is that, but it ruins something from what I had from Prey, where I was doing things in Prey. Like the story of Prey, there was stuff that happened before, but I was part of it, and it was, are you going to send this audio file? And it's like, okay, I might do. I'm going to physically press the button on the computer to do it. I'm involved in making decisions, and I'm planning, oh yeah, you know what, I might go up to that place because I need to go that first, but first I'm going to go here because I need to 3D print some more ammo, and I'm kind of making a little plan in my head. Whereas on this game, I was just on the roller coaster, and every now and then, like, I could choose which way to look, basically. Yeah,
so like, you know, saying about in Prey where you 3D print the ammo, like all the stuff I was picking up, I was like, where is it? Like going through my map screen, like where's all this bandages and like drinks and
it just heals you immediately. Yeah,
it's like the world's littered with like 1% health kits. Basically.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that was really good though, that I really liked, was the chapter with the Gil, the crazy guy. Yeah, so that was a very good part of the game. Like having the mad version of him like taunting you while the sane version was like leaving you voice notes or whatever. Yeah. Like, I've never seen that in another game. I mean, I don't really like how that section ended, but he's like a big slug. Yeah, so
just to explain it a bit more fully. So you arrive in an area, and then there's basically a recording of someone saying like, "Hey, I know I'm getting all this like I'm getting all this Adam put into me. I know I'm going to go insane. You need to kill me. My insane version will be there and probably tell you to not kill me. But please do kill me." And then the insane one comes there and he's like, no, like I've changed my mind, please don't. I think that was the only like moral decision where like I had a little moment to think about it, because the other ones were so obvious.
Yeah, I did too, but you're going to laugh. I couldn't figure out how to kill him. So I just had to leave him.
How did you get through
He's
this
like,
game?
there's a button on the desk that will put an electrode shock in him, and I was looking at the desk and I was just like, there's nothing here. So I
wonder if you
maybe
had
it
a
never
glitch.
turned on, because the thing turned on to take the key.
Yeah,
the massive gold flashing. Yeah, it was
nothing
nothing there. So I just walked around for a bit, went down to the tank, had a look, and I was like, oh, okay, guess you're gonna live, mate. I left him.
Oh man, I really wish we were using your footage for the video version just to see you like bumbling through this game.
I'm so slow as well, like because I've got so much health. I always had 5 health kits and 5 of the Eve hypos, so I'd just be like going between my weapons like one at a time, like how am I going to deal with this, like really slowly, like, and the enemy's like blowing me to bits. I'm just like nope.
Oh dear. So would you have killed him then?
I think I would have done, yeah, because I kind of felt like killing him would have been the good choice, because he wanted to die and he was not human.
Yeah, no, that's what I did. I know we spoke about it a little bit in person when we shouldn't have, because we were talking about how far we were through the game, and then we were talking about Grace Holloway, who's the lady. Yes. So she's the lady who basically kind of was looking after Eleanor for a while. And you basically right. And so she doesn't trust you because she thinks you stole away Eleanor. And in a way, you kind of, when you didn't, but you basically are, trying to keep her protected. So, she's kind of gone after you a bit, but you arrive at her and she's like an unarmed elderly woman who is obviously just confused about the situation. And it's like, are you going to shoot her? Are you going to kill her? And it's like, no, I think I won't shoot this unarmed
old
confused
woman.
old woman. And then you leave and she's like, wow, you really like turn the other cheek there. Maybe you're not so bad. Like, I can't believe you managed to forgive.
Yeah, and all the characters like take a turn telling you how good you are. Like, so then she hangs up and the guy rings up like, "Oh my god, you're a thinking man. You're not a monster." And it's literally like, "Mate, I just didn't shoot an unarmed old woman." Like, and also the whole time you're in, I think this is the game's biggest problem, by the way. The whole time you're in her room, she's just standing there like, "So you're going to shoot me or what? What are you going to do?" And like, you're just rifling through her drawers, like stealing all her stuff.
Yeah.
I looked at her and then left, and then she rings me up like, "Wow, you're a hell of a man." Like, what are you talking about? Like, I think the main problem this game has, it doesn't have any characters that you care about, and when you do see them, they just stand behind a bit of glass, like, then they run away.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's in the first game as well, where like you don't. At least in this game, you are sometimes in a room with a character. In the first game, it very much feels like a Disney ride, and they're animatronics on the other side of a grate or glass or something or other, and you're observing. You feel like you're observing everything from a distance. I feel like that changes. I think the ending of the game is quite strong when you meet Sophia Lamb and Eleanor's there on the bed, and she's basically saying like, but
they're behind glass though.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like it's like they're there and she's talking to you, looking you in the eyes. It's not through a thing, and then there's the bit where she's like, "Well, if Eleanor dies, it's going to break the bond between you," and then she's like smothering her daughter with a pillow, and that's quite a shocking moment. And then you basically. She kind of transmits her your consciousness into a little sister, and so you play for a little while as a little sister. What do you think of that moment?
It was so tacky, wasn't it? It was like the tackiest thing ever. It was so. It looked so like it looked like a student production of like a Valentine's like. And then the one question I have about the little sisters, which is like, where does that vent go? It doesn't answer it because you climb through it and you teleport to another one.
Yeah.
But like, what is behind those vents? Like, they must have a little sister hangout or something that's like.
So yeah, well, I think in the first game you see a bit because they do have a place. Is it Tenenbaum? Tenenbaum? I think I'm saying that right. That lady. So she was part of the team that were turning people into little sisters, and then she was like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is absolutely evil. Maybe we shouldn't." And so then she changes to try to protect them. So they have like a little safe zone that you do visit. In the first game.
Oh, I can't remember that at all. I did rescue all of them in the first game, so obviously it cut me deep, and I thought they need rescuing.
Yeah. I don't know why they all look like. They all look. I wonder if it's explained why they all look exactly the same, like same color hair.
I thought it was because you were like brainwashed into seeing them like that.
Oh, is that what it is?
Because I picked that up from somewhere that you.
Because in the first game they look like that as well, and I guess you are.
Yeah, but I think in the first game they have different dresses and stuff. Maybe they don't.
But they're all. I mean, it's probably just a hardware limitation, and they didn't want to design.
They've got a lot of enemies though. Like, I mean, they're all just people with masks on, but they have lots of different clothes. But
even like when you like heal them, they like look like there's the cutscene at the end where you can see like a bunch of them as like human child, and they all look exactly the same. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah. So my ending, we were like rocketing out. I was hanging onto the outside of the submarine, and then inside was the main bad. What's her name again? The main enemy. I can't remember her name.
Oh, so Sophia?
Yes, Lamb.
Yeah.
Was in there drowning, and then my my big sister put a scuba mask on her and saved her, and that's how it ended.
Yeah, and that is her Eleanor saying, like, you showed me that you can forgive people for what they've done wrong. So that's because you rescued these people. That's why she did that. I feel like that's a nicer way to do the moral ending. Like it's your inverted comma child learning from your actions. I think that's actually quite a smart way to do an ending where you never actually choose your ending. It's just the actions leading up to it. And all these different actions. I think that's actually a pretty smart way of doing these kind of endings.
So would that be the first time that the plasmids ever were on the surface?
No, because in the first game I think you can escape is one of the endings. You're right. Yeah,
the first game you wake up in hospital and all the little girls are holding your hand.
There's multiple endings in the first game as well. So I think like it has them like kind of like graduation and stuff. Like you can see them all. No, you can see like with the little when they grow up and you're like there in the audience.
What was that stupid game we played with Monkey and the woman? And he's like the photograph
enslaved. Yeah. Oh dear. I mean, I'll be honest. So like, I definitely like this game more than you.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at just how simple and straightforward of a game it was. And I think like the whole time, I know I've brought it up a lot, and you said as well, I was comparing it to Prey, and I'm surprised at how much more I did like Prey more than this. Like that is scratching the itch. Like, so I've kind of come to realize, because like what I've considered my favorite games has changed a lot. Like over the last few years, like my top 10 lists of all time has kind of like changed a lot. And so I've kind of like worked out what I want in a game is I need a challenge. If it needs to have some level of difficulty. I need creative freedom, and I want to have be able to explore an interesting world. If it does those three things, I'm probably going to enjoy it. Because if it's not challenging, the fact that I've creative freedom doesn't matter, because I could do what you tried to do and just shoot my way through. You know, say if, you know, I'm playing Elden Ring and it's like, oh, I can just use the starting sword and just the basic attack. Like I want the game to force me to use all of the systems rather than me like playing around and then I'm going to get to the serious business. Like so, and that's a difficult thing to get right. And then I like the freedom to be able to explore, you know, a world which I think is an interesting place to explore. So I think if you look at kind of my favorite games of all time, they all tick those boxes. And this game, I mean, I didn't find it challenging at all. Like I think I maybe died once, and it was just through like a dumb mistake. I'll be honest. But I've played these games a little bit more, and I was using all of the tools that they had. I don't think it did give me some creative freedom, but like nowhere near compared to like Deus Ex or, you know, Prey or kind of other games that do the same kind of thing. And there's an interesting world, but as you say, it was very repetitive. Like I feel like it doesn't quite do justice a city under the water. Like it feels so contained, even when you go outside. And I think a lot of that is hardware limitations. And I felt like I was barely exploring it. I felt like I was following directions. Like I was in a museum, but I was with a guide rather than just wandering around myself.
Yeah, you sort of have like side rooms. That's kind of how it is, isn't it? You have like every sort of like the hotel has the little rooms. Like every so often there's like a toilet so you can go in that's like not on the main path.
And a few little secrets where you could find, you know, like a safe, you know, a little bit off the beaten path. But there's a little bit more in the DLC where they open the door a tiny bit. But, you know, I would rather it be much more open.
Yeah, I think, the main problem for me was that there was no characters to cheer on or boo because I didn't understand what was going on. And like you don't see these characters, so it's almost like the opposite of Phoenix Wright, where you spend so long talking to them and they're standing right in front of you. This is like they're way some. It's like Halo Infinite, like they're way somewhere else. Yeah, and this is all going on. You're just like, oh, I guess I'm just here. Like
I did enjoy the audio logs, and I was like really paying attention because sometimes with audio logs I do zone out and I was like, I want to make sure on this one that if a conversation comes up about someone I know myself, so I was really listening. And there are some like fun stories. There's like someone called Mark Meltzer, who's like someone who from the outside that came here like looking for his daughter, and you kind of go through the journey and eventually you find out that one of the big daddies and the little sister were like them. He like got turned into one. And there's there are like fun little stories that you can pick up through them. But it is like I'm playing a game and I'm like listening to an audiobook. They almost feel like kind of separate. I mean, not because it's obviously in the same world that you're in, but I would, you know, really rather, I've run into a character and they want me to do, and we're doing some interaction. Like on Prey again, like you meet these people that are survivors and they have different motivations and they're like, okay, I'm going to meet up to your office. Then you get like a little group of people and they're like, oh, I know you're doing this mission, but, you know, there's like this ability to play this amazing symphony, and like if we leave the ship without it, like it's going to be gone forever. Can you do it? Like I know it's not important, but then you have the choice to do that, and then, you know, they'll react differently for things that you do. Like there's nothing like close to that in this game.
Yeah, I mean, even when you think about, you know, in this game you meet the characters and they're standing behind glass. Even in Prey, when they're behind glass, they're more interesting. Like you got that one woman that's outside the ship and she's like knocking on the glass. That's pretty cool.
And then she comes, you know, and then she comes in, and then you know actually see her.
You got the guy in the kitchen.
Yeah,
like he turns out to be like a not like a double agent, but he's like living a double life to trick you or something.
But you do eventually go in with him, and you can shoot him through the grate and just kill him, and then the story will carry on.
The other one I think of is the guy that was trapped in the shipping crate.
Yeah,
They're all people behind glass,
didn't you kill
but they're
him?
so much better than they are. Yeah, I killed him
Yeah,
accident.
but once again, you can guide them into the ship, and then he comes out, and then there's stuff with him. You
know. Okay, I've got a few more notes, but I don't want to. All we've done is like lay into this game, so that it's much the same. So,
well, have we got questions from people? I feel like we haven't really done any of them yet.
Yes, we do. We'll start with a funny one because it's an old friend of the show, Jack Marshall, wrote in and said, "If big daddies exist, does that mean small daddies do? And if so, what do you think a small daddy would do, and look like?"
So I think that's the one that would be like you. You're a small daddy.
Well, just like blindly following my giant arrow, not understanding what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Not using the plasmids, just using my guns.
What to do. You're like, maybe it's like just like Duke Nukem, who's just like playing it like a first person shooter, just like a big cigar, just like blasting his way through.
To be honest, like I just found the plasmids and stuff that I was using was so ineffective compared to a gun that I was like, why would I use this? Like the freeze was the best one I found. You don't get that right away.
So you're using them in combination. Like, do you use like the cyclone trap? You can put down a cyclone.
I didn't buy that one.
So you can put like a cyclone, so it's like a trap that would launch them in the air, but you could then shoot another plasmid into, like put like a flame one into it, and then it's like turns it into a fire trap. And then if you do that in like a puddle of oil, that could be like, it actually becomes meaningful damage, which is worth doing. Like there were things. Yeah. Like
the thing is with the oil, I've always found it difficult to tell the difference between an oil spill and water. Yeah. So I'd always shoot the wrong one and be like, at this point, I may as well get the ice out and then freeze them. Because, like,
that's so funny. I was absolutely the same with that. I'd often think that the water was oil because it's obviously in a really dark environment. But yeah, no, I did that too.
Okay, so I'm the small daddy. Good. Glad we covered that one. So Sean the Draconian on YouTube actually asked a question that I was wondering about as well before I played it, which was, do you think this game's better than Bioshock Infinite? Because I've been seeing recently people loving Bioshock 2 and not loving Bioshock Infinite anymore.
Yeah, Bioshock Infinite went in like, because it was getting all like 9s and 10s when it came out and everyone's saying it was a masterpiece, and like people's perception of it has just gradually dropped. So I played that really recently, Bioshock Infinite. I prefer it. So this is my least favorite Bioshock game, and I kind of knew that it probably would be going into it, just because I like the originality of like the original, and then Infinite is super original as well in its own right. So I just found returning to Rapture not that interesting, despite loving Rapture as a setting. So I really liked Infinite. Like I've watched a lot of like critiques, like YouTube videos, like video essays about it. And I tend to agree with most of the things that people say when they're pointing out flaws. Yeah. But I just love it still. I just love the style of it, and I love like the audio, and like the story is super interesting. And like the thing is, so people are picking up flaws, but they're picking up flaws like in the way that they would like a great novel, and they're saying like, oh no, but it's setting up this person's motivations, but really this, and they really set up like Comstock's ideology would be this, but really it's more this. And I'm like, you know, the fact that we're even discussing a game story at that level, like that's still beating most things out, and even if it doesn't quite nail it, as people kind of said that it was at the beginning, like it's just interesting that it's getting to that level in like a first-person shooter action game as well, where it's not just reading text boxes and stuff. And I love I just love Columbia, the flying city and the style of it. And then I also think it's got probably, like, Alex Vance is another one, but probably the best AI companion in a video game in terms of gameplay and just as a character, like the way, like, because you do a lot of that game the world isn't in ruin when you're in it, so like shops are open and stuff, and so you explore, and then Elizabeth, your companion, she's going into shops and like, oh look, have you seen this, like let me like pick this up and actually give it to you and you can have it, and like, oh, I found a coin, catch this, and like, oh, you're out of ammo, like let me get you some ammo, like this kind of stuff. And the way she reacts and like her eye like tracks, like they spent years like getting that down. And I may be missing an obvious one. I don't know, maybe like Ellie from Last of Us, but I still just don't think it has the same impact as Elizabeth did.
Yeah, I never played Bioshock Infinite. Like when Bioshock 1 came out, as I said before, I didn't really like it. I remember thinking like it was needlessly edgy and like it's gone too far, so it was uncool. Like, and also I found back then, and I still find now, that the 1930s-ness of it, it's really like inauthentic compared to like Fallout. I know it's an underwater city, so like obviously it's not going to be realistic. But Fallout's like a nuclear wasteland, doesn't exist. But I feel like the 1930s-ness, like the music and stuff, is really like crowbarred in. Like it doesn't feel authentic like Fallout does. And at the time, that was the two reasons that I was like, oh, I don't. And also, I was well into Street Fighter then, and anything that wasn't Street Fighter wasn't good enough. So that was the other reason.
I understand that. Like for me, it's like these games come around so rarely that like a mediocre one, and not that I'm calling Bioshock mediocre, but like one that isn't, hitting everything out the park is still enough for me to like to really like it. So I think Infinite is my favorite of them, and I'd be interested to see. Like I don't like you're not gonna love Infinite, but it's got like one of the most interesting endings in games. Like right. I don't think and openings as well. The opening and ending is amazing on it, and then it's got some cool moments in. Like there's a bunch they could have cut out of it, but it's got a little bit more padding, I think, in it. And the story there is probably quite a lot of potholes in it, but I think it's just a cool experience, and there's nothing really close to it that has come out since, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because like even though I was having a very miserable time, when Minerva's Den was over, I was a bit like, oh, like I think I was expecting more maybe from Minerva's Den.
I definitely was, and I can't. The crashes has marred my opinion because I was so angry when it crashed. I was like an hour and a half in, and it was like a proper big like send a report to Sony crash.
Yeah, wow, okay.
Yeah, and then the fact that the story, a lot of it once again is like. You're like the problem with this game is you're mainly what you're doing is tasks. Go get the thing. Go pull the lead. Go to get 4 of these things. And then the fact that Minerva's Den was also that, I was hoping it was going to be because it's a smaller experience. They can focus more on the story, but it was very front and end loaded. And I also just want to say because it was in Minerva's Den, one of my notes of the game, which I think is a nice way just to sum up my problem overall with the game, is there's a puzzle in it where you need to do a combination lock. And then there's a clue in one of the audio logs that says, well, if you need to know the combination, just look at the books.
Look at the books.
So I went to the shelves and I was like, okay, this is like the simplest puzzle in the world, but at least I'm going to solve it. And then you see that the books are arranged like 2, 4, 1, whatever. And then I went to go and input it. And then they put the numbers on the side of the screen. And I was like, the puzzle was so simple anyway. But then you have to put the number, just because I've looked at the book. I mean, maybe I didn't even have to look at the books. Maybe the numbers would have been there anyway. And I'm like, God, you do not trust me at all to play your game. Like, I need like another setting of just like, trust me, I got it. Like,
I had a hint come up that was like, look behind the poster for a hidden switch.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not hidden if you tell me where it is. Like,
yeah. I know where that is as well.
Yeah. We got quite a lot of questions about the like philosophy.
Okay.
I don't really know much about that, but you sound like you do.
I can try.
Okay. Evan Harriardi on YouTube asks, how do you feel about the philosophical elements of the Bioshock franchise, such as the game's focus on libertarianism, altruism, and moral absolutism?
So I don't really understand what all of those words are. I think like moral absolutism is basically it's meant to be like you're committed to
killing
like
them when you're saving them.
Yeah,
that's
like
what I read that as.
Yeah, like there's no grey area in between. So I did make a little note that Andrew Ryan's like Elon Musk, lol. I wrote as a little note because his whole idea is that like. Get rid of all like freedom of speech is everything, like get rid of all, like he basically hates the government, and he's like, why, like if there's a farmer there like working on his land to make money, and then like the big hand comes down to like take the taxes, and it's like, no, like let be rewarded for the work that you do, for the sweat on your brow is like kind of like one of the quotes, and saying that if like there shouldn't be like all art should be allowed, there should be no restrictions on art whatsoever. You see kind of like the Elon Musk comparison with like humor and stuff. And so one of the things that's quite interesting is so Sophia Lamb kind of gets around that by doing art, which is almost like against that philosophy, but it is still art. So it's almost kind of showing the hypocrisy in that philosophy, because then Andrew Ryan bans it, and it's saying like, oh, so it's everything's fine as long as you approve it, and kind of shows that no, like everyone does have their line. I think that when I originally played through these games, like I wasn't probably thinking about it on that level, and to be honest, I was.
The thing is, like when you say that about this art thing, it's like I can't believe the same people that made that also did the "Are you going to kill this old woman or let her live?" It makes me think like I must be missing something. Like there's no way it could come from the same brains that thought that was a good moral choice. Like,
yeah, I wonder if it is like Bioshock was really popular and they wanted that mass appeal, and I think them like I feel like like everything's simplified, and I think those moral choices are part of it being simplified. And I think maybe it's just not the strongest, most robust writing.
Yeah, because I do think like as I was playing this, I was thinking like killing and saving the little girls is like so stupid. They must know. Like they must know it's not a moral like thing, and they're all congratulating you for not doing it. It's like you must know. Like come on.
So Ken Levine has done interviews. So he's the director of the writer of the original one. Has come out saying about that they got the balance wrong on Little Sisters, because as I said, I think if it gave like imagine you couldn't get any Adam, you could never upgrade at all without harvesting a little sister, you might be like, God, this game's so hard, like I'm so weak, I need to like power up. I need to power up, otherwise this game's getting so difficult. So you have to be really like dedicated and determined in order to not harvest them. And it's like like you're basically choosing your difficulty level. If you don't harvest at all, you're playing on very hard mode. Like maybe then it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to harvest one or two, but I don't want to. Like maybe then it could have worked. But I think the implementation here is it's like everything else, it's just a little bit too wishy-washy, and you can kind of get away doing either, and it's just what MOV are they going to play at the end of the game is the only real outcome.
But they must know. They must know. Surely. I'm not going to do much credit.
Yeah, these are older games. Like games have progressed, I think, from then. Like you think of like the games that were coming out at the same time as this, and like there weren't really. There were very few games that really had kind of great moral decisions. Like it's especially in like action games, like games.
Yeah, of course.
Like RPG stuff is almost like a different thing. But like, compared to like the other first-person shooter style games at the time, like this was getting a lot deeper than any of its other games at the time.
Yeah. We got a few questions as well. People saying they hope we played the DLC, and we did.
We did.
So there you go. Finished it.
Yeah.
Only took me 2 hours because I did it on easy. Absolute machine.
Yeah. took me 3 hours, but extra hour and a half just to do it twice.
I'll tell you what. That sports tonic, did you ever not use it?
The sports one? What was the sports
one? Makes you
one?
run faster.
Oh, no, yeah. No, of course, always had that one. Yeah, that was like... As soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, you're going to be with me forever.
And I've got one more bit of beef with this game. It's to do with the tonics
okay, but then afterwards, wrap your brain for a good bit.
Okay. There's no reason to have 4 shops. Like, the fact that you can go to the Gatherer's Garden, buy a plasmid, accidentally equip it, and you can't take it off until you find another shop. It's just like... So there's one plasmid or gene tonic or something that turns off all your guns, and you can only use the drill.
Yeah.
And I accidentally equipped that one twice. And I was like, oh no. Like I did it in the DLC and in the main game. Then I was like, I have to walk around and find another... I have to find a gene bank.
Why can't you just switch that whenever you want? Like also, that would be more creative. Like, oh, I'm in this situation here. Like, oh, I know there's going to be a bunch of whatever. Like, I want to put this tonic on. It's like, oh, let me go and find a switchy poodle, whatever those things are.
Yeah, and like sometimes there'll be 4 shops in a row, and it's such a long way because they're quite big.
Yeah, it's and I got to hack them all as well to get the goodies. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm gonna hack for like 5 minutes. I hope I don't get the alarm on any of them. And then there's the ammo shop and like the general goods whatever shop, which sells ammo.
Sells ammo.
Why not just have one shop?
I know. You should have one shop for everything, and that would just. And also, when you look at the map, there's shops everywhere. Like they're absolutely everywhere, and like a healing station, a bot turn off. Like there's just stuff everywhere. Like,
also, those healing stations, like they're super exploitable. Like, say if you're in a Big Daddy fight, you could just like stand next to one shooting the Big Daddy, and then if you get weak, just heal. Like it's super cheap to heal, especially if you hack it.
It's $15.
Like you're never gonna like run out of money unless you've hardly got any. You can just stand next to it endlessly healing if you don't want to use any health kits. Like I didn't do that because it was like felt too easy, but like that's just like that's the goes to the thing with the challenge and creative solutions. Like I was almost forcing myself not to do some of like the kind of cheesy stuff just because I wanted to play it properly, but the game didn't force me to.
Who is like maintaining these health stations and collecting the money and restocking the shops? Is there any humans left? That's the other thing. So like, oh, it's been 8 years or something. And I was like, how is there anyone left? Like every time I open a door, they're blowing each other's heads off. Like, how could there be a single person left alive?
Well, they're not really killing each other. It's really only you because they're the family. You know, they're all kind of on the same page. If they want
the Adam though.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're all junkies, right?
Yeah, I mean, once again, video game. They need video game enemies for you to shoot. And I think the enemies they're actually okay. Like they said, the guns themselves like don't feel amazing, but I think that is one of the place it wins out over Prey, like the enemies.
Yeah, I mean, Prey only had that 1 or 2 types, didn't it?
Well, it had loads, but you just would never know which one it is unless you like scanned it and it's like, oh, this is this one because they all kind of the black blob one. Oh, which one's that? I mean,
they made horrible noise in Prey.
Mimics are one of the best video game enemies in any game, but like that should be the only black blob enemy, and then everything else should be something else. I will take the defeat.
They were like, we nailed it with this one. What do we like about it? Well, it's a black blob. Well, what we do for the next one?
Black blob with electricity. Ah, brilliant. Right, can you say something good about the game before we go to the list, please?
I liked
moment?
the RTS-ness of setting up your fights and having it was almost like playing Warcraft 2, but you're in it. Especially when you have a few guys on your side and a few robots, or you set something up and you're waiting for it to happen. So like you've got 3 cameras on the door with 3 drones with you, and you're like, well, as soon as I step forward, they're all going to run in and I'm going to throw a security thing at one of them or something. And like, but then the other thing is with that is that
no. End on the good. Okay. No, you can say I'm joking.
You don't always get to watch it because you have to hide from gunfire.
Yeah.
So it will just kind of happen. You'll be around the corner like, sounds bad.
Did it work?
And you just like peek your head out. There's like one guy left.
I'll just say one specific story moment that I liked to end on my good bit is when the big sister, like you've spent a while in a room. So it's not like a cutscene. This is like an area you've spent a while in. But she's like jumps up and it's like the big glass like wall with the water behind it, and she like breaks her whole way along, and the water comes in. I was like, oh, it's just going to do a bit of water, but then it all like smashes through and like floods the whole room. Because at first I was like, well, they're not going to flood it, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm basically in a spacesuit. They can that was a cool like set piece moment. I thought.
Is that right at the beginning?
Yeah, it's pretty early on.
Yeah, that's like probably the coolest scene, isn't it? I remember she like jumps across the top. Yeah.
Yeah, and like screaming at you.
I played with the HUD of the helmet turned off though.
Oh, the outside.
Yeah, I imagine my guy took it off because he was like, "I'm human." That was my.
Okay.
And then when the water started coming in, he was like, "Oh,
better put that back
on." Right, list.
Yeah, let's put it on the list. Okay, so Bioshock 2 is going to be the 34th game that we are going to be adding to the list. Before we put it on, is there everything okay with the list? I know sometimes you've been brewing on some alterations all week, and then this is your chance to pitch them. Don't just look for them now. Don't just try and make trouble.
No, I think I have a better understanding of Prey and how good it is now that I've played one that is not as good.
Okay.
But I'm not going to move it up or down, but I'm just saying that I now think Prey is pretty unbelievable that it exists now that I've played one that fundamentally does not work in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, as I've always said, like I it's one of my favorite genres, and that is my favorite one of that genre, which is why it's praised so high on my personal list. Remember, praise above Disco Elysium on my personal list. That's how much I like it.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's way up there.
It's like Arcane are turning their back on it a bit, aren't they? Because they didn't really do the same sort of thing for what was that looping game called?
Deathloop.
Deathloop, and the other one, Redfall, is not really like Prey either, is it?
Yeah. I wasn't a fan of Deathloop. I gave it a solid attempt, but then I didn't even finish it. It didn't tickle my boxes. It didn't tickle my boxes that I said for games I like, especially in the challenge department. You remember you came round, I had like basically an SMG with a silencer, and there was no reason for me ever just not to, from a distance, like snipe everyone and headshot them one bullet. Like there's all of these abilities, and I was like if I'm going to use them, it's just me trying to do silly things. Like I never need to use them for the gameplay. Whereas in Prey, you got it, because otherwise you're going to die. Yeah. I wonder if we should play together. I think if we played MGS3 again, we might have a greater appreciation for it. Yeah, you had suggested
because that's very systems based, isn't it? Yeah, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh, it's like an open world-ish kind of wide corridor at least.
Yeah.
A lot of systems at play. It could be pretty cool.
And it's been a long, like, I've not played it since PS2 days. I've not played any remasters or anything of MGS3.
Yeah, I think I didn't finish the remaster, but I did play a bit of it.
Yeah. The thing that scares me off is I just can't be bothered to keep changing my camouflage. That's my standout memory, is not wanting to change my camouflage.
Yeah, but now we're older, we might appreciate it more that it has these kind of slower moments like Death Stranding.
I bet the menus aren't good for all those camouflages. I don't want to tell you. We'll discuss that for another time. This is Bioshock 2's moment.
Yeah.
Should I go first? Because I think I'm going to be higher than you, and I feel like this will be the highest it will ever be, is where I say for it to go.
Okay.
And then it can sink under the ocean to wherever it's going to end up sitting. So I would put it, I think it would be under Halo Infinite, but I personally enjoyed it more than Resident Evil. So for me, it's between Halo Infinite and Resident Evil, which would put it at the number 17 slot.
That is completely insane. I can't believe you've just sat here and dunked on it for an hour and you're like, oh yeah, it's better than Resident Evil though.
I know, but
because you didn't like the voice acting in Resident Evil.
No, it's not. The issues with Resident Evil are so numerous because of the age of the game. But the core of this game is fine. It's just not spectacular. And I enjoyed listening to all of the audio logs. I enjoyed just exploring this world. I enjoyed, having a first person shooter where you have all of these, you have more considerations at least than let's aim at the head quick. Okay, let's aim at the head quick. Oh, my screen's red, I'll duck. Now I'll stand up, aim at the head quick, which is what a lot of first person shooters are today. I'm at least thinking about positioning and what gun am I going to use? What ammo am I going to use? What plasmid am I going to use? Am I going to try and hack a thing? It doesn't go deep enough. It's normally pretty obvious what to do, or I could set them on fire or electrocute them. It basically doesn't matter. It's just what color effect's going to be on screen. I will concede that, but at least I am thinking and playing a first person game, which is my favorite perspective for a game, in a cool world. And, Resident Evil, you're exploring a mansion with a camera angle, camera system, which is really awful, and the combat isn't great. I prefer the openness of Resident Evil, and I enjoyed getting keys and returning to areas, which Bioshock 2, it literally will say, you can never return here, commit to it. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine, let's take the little tram ride. But yeah, overall, it's just about above Resident Evil for me.
Okay. Can I put it where I'd put it?
Yeah, you can suggest it.
Okay, so I would put it...
Oh, it's going far down, guy. Audio loud, no!
One above Ty.
No!
Purely because at the end I was like, oh, that was a shame it finished. At the end of the DLC. So I thought I must have liked it a little bit if I was disappointed it was over.
You've put it under the PlayStation 2 version of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, it was a funny conversation, wasn't it? Even though we didn't like it, it was still more fun to talk about than this.
But when you finished Harry Potter, you weren't like, oh, it's over. I wish there was more.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, before we start the negotiations, just out of respect, just put it above Harry Potter, because it's going to end up above Harry Potter. So let's just put it above, and I feel like I'm put it above Enslaved as well. There's just, you can concede that out the gate. You can conceive Enslaved.
I don't know if it was better than Enslaved.
You are not putting. I know, but from the way this talk's going to go, it's going to end up above Enslaved. Yeah. So let's just put it above that tier.
How many times are you going to do this until it's just at the top?
No, this is it. Because World of Warcraft is a good game. Yeah. I think everything under Enslaved, I personally don't think is a great game.
Well, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking maybe we should add a red line to the list, because quite often when we had Craig on, and it was like, oh no, if you go down, we like all these games, but if you go down far enough.
Oh no, but if a guest comes on and they're below the line, and they're like, what's that red line? And it's like, oh, it's the respect line. I don't know what we go and argue away. Okay, also, that line's going to get grayer and grayer. The more games we add, it's going to be harder to pinpoint the line, I think.
Okay, so it's currently at 29.
Okay, can you so obviously you've said what you said, so I don't want you to be repeating yourself.
Yeah.
But in terms of the moment to moment gameplay, did you just not have any fun?
Well, I played it basically on mute because I couldn't stand listening to it. It was like hideous to look at. Most of the things I tried didn't work.
No,
so I just
what do you mean hideous to look at?
It's just an ugly game.
I don't think it's ugly.
It's so ugly. It's like it's so sharp and brown, and like the edges of the water are like completely straight. Like it's a hideous game, and like so much so that it looks like the assets are just smashed together. Like sometimes you'll see a little sister tunnel, and it won't blend in with the surroundings whatsoever. Like it's just there, and like the loading screens, like the PNGs for like the little mollusk things on them, whatever they're called, like just hideous. Like everything about it was hideous. Like the little low res camera guy when he was like flying around, like it was just ugly to look at. Like and the enemies are hideous, and like it's just an ugly game. So that's and also I played it on mute, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, I could blame you saying like, oh well, if you didn't play on mute, but like you tried and you couldn't handle all of how noisy the game is, and I do. Yeah, it is, it is a lot. A lot coming at you all at the same time, a lot of very harsh noises. Like even when like you haven't set off the alarm, but it's the drones flying around, which is can be the majority of fights sometimes, and they're just going like wee wee as they're like going around, and then there's the gunfire. And
all your friendly drones and your friendly guys all have like hitboxes. You can't push past them.
I know.
So sometimes they stand in the way and you're trying to get in there like beeping, and it's literally like, I can't take this game anymore. I just shut up.
The thing is they give you an option to deactivate the drones, and I was like, well, why would you ever want to do that? And it's like, oh yeah, it's just because they're always in the way. And they fly so close to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely had more fun with World of Warcraft. That one evening where we accidentally almost played together, or we did play together, is so far above what I went through with Bioshock
2. Would it be fair, because this is probably the biggest disparity we've ever had? Would it be fair, rather than because I went first to put it at the top, and so it's kind of got put down the bottom, can we say let's meet in the middle and then do the argument up and down? Start the tug of war in the middle rather than on one side.
Yeah, so you put it at 17.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to work out exactly, but if you just kind of see roughly in the middle.
I think it's around Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Ratchet and Clank kind of area, like around here.
Yeah, so this is at 24, so between Ratchet and Clank and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So my argument for it going up would be on like how interesting and unique it is. Like there's so few games like this. Like Ratchet and Clank alone, like that series has had like 9 entries or something, and there are loads of other kind of action platformy mascot games, and Ratchet and Clank is a great one. You know, it's a much more polished game than Bioshock 2. But if you want to play those games, you could play like 10 decent versions of that game like most years, and then if you go through history, especially PS2 era, like if you want that kind of game, you can get it. For someone like me who wants this kind of game, like we get like, if we're lucky, we get one of these a year, and like this is kind of one of like the granddaddies of them. So I think just for specialness, it should go above Ratchet and Clank.
The big daddies.
One of the big daddies, the big granddaddies.
Well, I mean, I say it this way: Ratchet and Clank was pretty boring, pretty vanilla. Bioshock was pretty boring because I had no idea what was going on, but Ratchet and Clank did work and didn't crash out all the time, and the things did what I expected, and I wasn't running into enemies, like running into my own teammates because I couldn't get through them. Ratchet and Clank, there's no way. Ratchet and Clank is just a better game. It's just a better game.
Yeah, like I'm not going to argue against that stuff. I mean, if
you're saying, "Oh, I want to play this type of game," it should go higher up on the list. Like, okay, my favorite type of game is you have to be roller skating in it, so therefore Jet Set Radio has to be number 1 because it's the only one. Like, it doesn't matter.
No, but I'm saying that for like, you know, this is our joint list, and I'm saying this is, you know, one of my favorite genres. Yeah,
but it's a bad one.
It's neat. I don't think it's
Zero.
bad.
It's only one below Zero Ranger.
It's not. You know, it's 2 at the most. So yeah, so put it 1 below Zero Ranger then.
Okay, it can go above Ratchet and Clank.
Okay, so if you conceded Ratchet and Clank,
I mean,
to be honest, this might be the slot. To be fair,
Yeah, it can't go above
like
Zero
I would want it higher, but I don't know if I can argue. Like we've just boosted up Zero Ranger. Like I'm still on a high for thinking about Zero Ranger.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
and I've got it above games which they definitely are more competent. But it's like Ratchet and Clank was that time. Do you remember that time, like a few years ago, and you drank orange juice?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you don't, because it's just orange. You have it with just orange juice, whatever. Yeah, like Bioshock was that time you took a shot of vinegar. And sure, it wasn't as nice as the orange juice, but you'll never forget it. You never forget it.
I might forget it because I can't remember a single thing that happened in the game. Because not only did I not understand
you just didn't
I
take
couldn't
it in
see
because you played it on mute.
But I couldn't see what was even happening anyway because it's so ugly and like the areas all look the same. It was just like looking at a brown smear while like annoying sounds played at you.
There's some cool, like there's the moment where there's like that exhibit with that Andrew Ryan did where he's kind of talking about his ideologies, and you kind of press the button and the little animatronics talk to you, and then you kind of go like behind the scenes and stuff. Like that's like a standout moment. As in like locations.
Near the beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, and then there's that bit that really open area, like before you go and see Grace, where there's kind of like that shop, or like that kind of that diner right in the middle of the area, and it's quite big. Like there's a few standout moments, but yeah, compared to even Bioshock 1, there isn't diversity, but I think you just didn't like the style, and I didn't mind the style as much. Like everything you said, especially in part, I really agree with you. The way you said like it doesn't feel like a genuine representation of that
weird
time
though,
period.
right? Like I realise how silly that sounds because obviously it's an underwater city, but it just doesn't like.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and I think maybe that's I don't know what that is, but yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, it's just I know it's just me and it's a mere problem, but I do find Bioshock 1 and 2 just a bit edgy and a bit like cringe-inducing. Like the little sisters, the big daddies, like the way that it's turned into like a big death match. Like it's just a bit lame. It just doesn't work with me. Like it just bounces off me. Like I think it's just a bit uncool.
I really like the big daddies as an enemy. I like that as I like the fact that they wander around. And as you said, they don't attack you unless you attack them. And there's like that, you can kind of set up your environment before you attack them. I think the design of them is like, obviously it's video gaming and whatever, but like I think it's quite cool. And like the audio design, like that, like the fact that you hear their stomping feet and the sound of them almost like a whale, like before you see
song,
them. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And like just the fact that it's an enemy that is not going to fight you unless you fight them, and you can fight them, but you don't have to. Like it's entirely, like it genuinely is up to you. Like I think that is a cool concept that at the time not many games had done, and not many games have really done since. So I think that aspect of it holds up quite well and is still pretty unique.
Yeah, I mean you're right when you said earlier on that Big Daddies were the coolest thing about it. So they made a whole game about them. Because they are the best thing in the whole.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I don't think it is it doesn't feel like you're a big daddy. And at first I was thinking when I started the DLC, and I was like, oh wait, I'm a different big daddy. And I was like, oh yeah, it's because like they're not going to develop all new mechanics for the DLC. Like they've developed it with the drill and all of that stuff. I was like, oh, that was probably like a not a technical limitation, but like a time limitation of doing that. That
Do you know what would have been really cool? But obviously easy to say, but this is millions of dollars worth of manufacturing and developing. If you had like your tonics and your plasmids and you had big daddy powers that you could level up as well, where you could like see little sisters through walls or like pick up bits of the environment, like stuff that big daddies would actually do, rather than just like aimlessly swinging your drill or charging and never hitting a single enemy, which is what I did. I didn't hit a single enemy with that charge.
I will say it's cool when Eleanor teams up with you, and then she's like, use this plasmid and like to summon
her
me.
in.
And then she's got loads of voice lines, and she's like stay away from my father and stuff, and like the fact that she's, and then like she would kind of, even after the combat, she would kind of hang around with you, and there'd be a few voice lines. Like that was a cool moment.
Yeah, like characters not behind glass. Great. Like you're experiencing it with someone else,
Yeah, it was quite rare. Like as I said, like I enjoyed this kind of game more than you. Like there was never throughout this whole podcast a criticism you made that I wasn't like agreeing with, and there's a lot of stuff that you said that I hadn't really registered with. Maybe I was just overlooking, or it evidently didn't annoy me as much, but now you point it out, I'm like, oh yeah, no, the audio is a bit. Everything's on 10, which means nothing stands out because everything's kind of maxed out. Yeah, I wonder maybe if my setup with my speakers, if maybe it wasn't as bad.
Yeah. Well, also, like, this is the first time I've played a podcast game while living with someone else. So it's the first time I've been conscious of the sound. Yeah. So it's like, oh, this is a really annoying one.
Oh dear. Right. Do you want to read the group that it's settled in for now?
Yep. So at 21 we have Frog Detective, 22 is Zero Ranger, 23 is Bioshock 2, 24 is Ratchet and Clank, and 25 is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Okay.
And so I know that there was a from the questions and the comments we had when we announced this game, there's a lot of love for this game in the community. So obviously this hasn't been the most positive podcast talking about it, but we'd love to hear in the comments, like, what are we, are we overlooking anything? What is it about this game and this world that you really enjoy? Like, is there anything that we said in particular that you think, maybe we were kind of looking at it wrong? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I think that's all I've wanted from the start. When I texted you when I first started playing it, I was like, I must be missing something here because I do not get what is happening.
Well, I think it sounds like from the beginning you trying to play it like a straight up shooter. That was the issue there. Like, in terms
I was
of the
thinking
challenge,
I was going to be like grabbing splices off my body and like throwing them, like drilling them, and like it just is not.
These games aren't about like you being the most powerful thing in the room. Like these kind of games, it's more about you outsmarting, to get around, odds that aren't in your favor. So I think maybe that was just your expectation.
Definitely.
Going to them. A fair expectation.
A lot of people probably thought the same as well.
Yeah, when you know that you're a big daddy and you're used to facing them and then being super strong. I think that's fair.
Right. Are we done? Should we do what's coming up?
Yeah, that's the list done.
Cool. Okay, so next time we have The Walking Dead Season 1, which I've already installed. Looking forward to that. Then we've got... Oh, that's on March 24th. And then on April 7th, we've got The Dig with a guest. And then April 21st, we've got Hollow Knight. And then May 5th, we've got Subterra, which is a board game.
Ooh. I wonder if anyone has played that game, because it doesn't even seem to be like that well known of a board game. Like, we went to like this enormous board game shop last weekend and we couldn't it wasn't even there, and they seem to have every other board game. So I wonder, it doesn't seem super niche, but it'd be cool to see if anyone has played it. And if you are really into board games, it's a co-op board game. Like, I strongly recommend this game. So, like, I'm not going to tell anyone to buy a board game just for the podcast because they're expensive. But if you think you might enjoy that game anyway, it's a strong recommendation. If you can play it before listening to the podcast, it might be a good time to buy it if you're looking for a board game. I guess I'll put it that way.
It's 4 players, right? Or is it 5?
No, I think you can scale up loads because you can play it one player if you want, because if you play with less players, you play multiple characters. So I think it might be up to like 6 or even 8 or something, because if you could play like 2 characters each. So but yeah, I mean, check online before you buy. And there are expansions as well, but we're just going to be doing the main game.
Yeah, cool. I guess that's everything then.
Well, one other thing I want to say is we recently reached one of our Patreon goals, where for 110 patrons, and the goal was that we're going to do a live playthrough on the Discord of Mario Party 64. So people on the Discord will be able to watch that live, but we will be recording it and putting it out as a video on YouTube, so it'll be free for everyone to watch as well. So that's going to be with guests that we're previous guests from the podcast.
Previous guests,
So we don't have an exact date yet for when we'll be doing it, but it's happening. It will come up soon, so just keep an eye out for that. And then what's the next goal after that for Patreon?
It's audience voted. Oh
episode. God, yeah. Do you want to explain how that's going to work? Or
well, I don't know how it's going to work.
I know we haven't worked it out exactly, but
I think my idea is we pick like 32 games and let people vote. I think that would be an easy way of doing it than having just people
doing like a tournament setup.
Tournament bracket, yeah.
Yeah, so basically it'll be a game that will be the community will be able to vote on which game we end up playing, because it's always me and Ollie picking our choices. So it'll give a good chance for people to choose what they want. And then our goal for 135 is going to be our first big production Let's Play on the channel, which is going to be Ollie playing through Bloodborne with me being in his ear. I'll be like your Cortana, giving you
or you'll be like everyone in Bioshock.
Don't just mute me on Discord though. And so that's something that we'll be putting a lot of effort into. There'll be heavily edited episodes. So if/when we reach that goal, and that's something that we're looking forward to doing.
Yeah, nice one. I guess thanks to everyone that has already subscribed to that as well.
Yeah,
it's really good. And you might be able to see I've got a new camera, so got a whole new setup really. So yeah, thanks so much everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Is that everything?
Yeah.
Okay, right, brilliant. So see you in the next one, where we're going to be doing Walking Dead, a very requested game in its own right. I'm sure a lot of you have already played it. If you haven't, it's quite easy. It's like, I think 5 episodes. Each one is about 3 hours long, maybe a little bit shorter. So you can kind of do it like a TV show almost. Yeah,
and also it's on Cloud Play on Xbox Game Pass, so you probably don't need to download it, because as far as my understanding is, it's choices. And
so there are, I will say there are QuickTime events. So
is there? Oh, okay. Ignore me.
Yeah, the delay might be difficult for that. But it's a it was a 360 game, so I'm sure it won't be a huge download. But obviously, it's one of the most celebrated story games of all time. So if you haven't played it, definitely play it. It's a zombie game. It's not super gory, but bear that in mind. But yeah, that's the end of this one here. Cheers, Ollie. That was an interesting discussion.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I've been worrying about this because it's the most notes I've ever written for an episode.
Oh,
so,
well, thanks for.
But it was a page and a half of mostly negative things.
Thanks for breaking all of our hearts, Ollie.
I'm sorry.
Thank you as always being honest with your criticism. But yeah, that's the end of this podcast here. Cheers for watching or listening, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.